Good morning, early game crew. You heard the sounder. It's Football Friday. I know what day it is. I, Elijah Campbell, do. He, Preston Thorne, does. She, Jen Jensen, does. It's Football Friday here on the game. Before we get into the football, before we even allude to what happened between two 40-year-old quarterbacks duking it out last night. Because if you like old dudes playing quarterback and you like football, last night was your game. But I feel fresh today, Preston Thorne. Got a pedicure done.
Nice.
My feet feel so good.
Man, listen here. Underrated luxury that I would recommend for all listeners to the show. Treat yourself.
Yes. And last night was one of those nights.
Underrated, for sure.
I feel great.
Very late to that. I'm very late to that game, and I would say, why hadn't I been here for longer?
I've only been getting it done for about 3 years now, and I went a little long. Been a busy few weeks. But Mira and I went when she got off work last night. One of the best feelings in the world.
Good feeling.
One of the best.
Correct.
It's great. I feel fresh. My feet feel fresh.
Yeah. It's like when you put them socks on and they don't crackle up against your feet or the sheets don't crack. It's like, oh, man, this is how I'm supposed to be living.
That's why I'm still wearing my Chacos today, because I didn't even want to wear socks. Didn't want to.
Didn't realize I've been living like such a savage all this time.
Right. I never knew how gross I actually felt until I got that done. I love it.
I like it.
Now last night, Joe Flacco. So if I would have told you at the beginning of this year that we would have a game in the year of our Lord 2025 where Joe Flacco throws for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns, Aaron Rodgers throws for 249 and 4 touchdowns, you'd say, Elijah, you're not talking about 2025. You're talking about 2015, maybe at the latest.
At the latest.
No.
2010-ish.
2010-ish, yeah. I'd be like, no, this is a box score from when I was in high school.
For sure.
Right? That's what I would be telling you. No. This happened last night. Last night in the Bengals 33-31 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And the thing was fascinating to me about this is that Joe Flacco for 1 year in his NFL career was on fire, right? Joey throwing flames, Joe Flames, whatever you wanted to call him.
Go football through a hurricane.
Exactly. And then after that, he was pretty good.
Right. He was a serviceable, solid,
pretty good
quarterback. Was going to win you games. You're going to be in contention. You'll go to some AFC title games.
And it's fascinating that Joe Flacco at this age is still leaps and bounds better than Jake Browning.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Like the Bengals looked around and was like, we have to do something.
And they probably did something a little too late.
Yeah.
They're 3-4, so, I mean, they have time to turn this thing around. But best trade so far? Yeah, I know the Packers got Micah Parsons, but if this turns out to where they end up getting in the playoffs despite Joe Burrow missing, 80% of the season, then we have some executives over there in Cincinnati that could be up for some awards.
Yeah, they went and did it. And also, Cleveland, what are you doing?
Not trying to win. That's all I got. Not trying to win.
Hey, Myles Garrett,
Joe Flacco was great.
Myles Garrett, I know you're a generational talent. We signed you to a long-term deal. We're going to waste you. Don't worry about it.
We're going to trap you here.
But you signed.
You're going to play football here, and, buddy, you're going to like it. You are going to like it. We are going to make you like playing football here with all this money. I think last night, Jamar Chase, too, broke a record for most catches, most receptions in a game for a Cincinnati Bengals player. Got 16 passes last night. Should have had 17. He dropped one that hit him right in the hands.
And this is why I want to go back to this conversation. Don't tell me that the other team is covering our guy up. Don't tell me that, oh, yeah, they're rolling the coverages to him. Don't tell me that there's no way to get the ball to your best player. There's a way. Even in the NFL, you can get the ball to your best player if you want to.
Jalen Ramsey was on that assignment last night. Didn't stop him.
Get the ball to your best player. Don't tell me that, oh, well, the defenses is playing us a little bit different, and so we're going to have to try and change things up. No. Get the ball to your guy.
Joe Flacco's been there like a week, and he's like, okay, I really don't need all the plays. I just need to know where number one's at. Where's he at? Okay, just let me know where that guy is on the field. Oh, his jersey number is number 1? Okay, yeah, we're gonna get that guy the ball.
All right. It seems difficult, but sometimes it's not.
sometimes it's a lot easier than you may think. We got a big game tomorrow. It's Football Friday, South Carolina versus Oklahoma. In a game that South Carolina absolutely, positively must have to keep this thing from having the wheels fall off. And to me, that's the overarching theme of this game. Is now you were, like we talked about last week, kind of being a crossroads game. Well, you haven't completely made the decision on which path you're going to go, but you're inching towards one of them, and it's not really good. You need to start getting some wins on, to make sure you're even bowl eligible, because we've looked at the schedule. We know what's up. We know how good Ole Miss is this year. We know how good Texas A&M is this year. We're seeing what Alabama's starting to do after that loss to Florida State, a loss that I think now everybody that covers college football, that watches college football, that keeps up with this sport the way we do, has completely eliminated from your mind. That loss now means nothing to me. It will still count when we talk about resumes, because that loss will not age very well, because Florida State is finding a way to drool on themselves in the back half of the year. But in terms of how I feel about how Alabama is playing right now, that loss to Florida State doesn't even compute. They're really good, and that's what you have ahead of you. And if you lose on Saturday, you're going to be underdogs in those 3 other games, and those 3 other games would get you to 7 losses.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be underdogs in those 7 games as far as I can see regardless. However, what is going to be the spirit of what's going to be the vibes around the team and the town if you go out there and you do not win this game? It is not hyperbole. It is not overstatement. It is not being extra to say that this is the biggest game of the year, obviously, and also one of the biggest games of Shane Beamer's career. Because when you look at all the circumstances that surround this game, coming home after in the middle of a disappointing season, which it is already disappointing. We're already there.
You've reached it.
However, as I said this week, it's not a failure yet. It's disappointing, but it's not a failure yet. But as you stated, Elijah, there's at a point of no return. We're at kind of the point where maybe it's not able to get the thing back on the tracks, or maybe you can't make a U-turn, however you want to see fit. So there is no understating how huge this game is for the team, the season, the program, athletic. This is as big as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we didn't want to be here, but this is where we are.
And because when you look at these few games coming up ahead, too, this is the most winnable one.
That's exactly the point.
Because this is a team in Oklahoma that still has a flaw, more so than Alabama. I think Alabama offensively and defensively, really good right now. Texas A&M, offensive and defensively, really good right now. Ole Miss, offensively and defensively, really good right now. Oklahoma seems gettable just because John Mateer's playing with 3 screws in his right thumb, right? That's kind of an important thumb for him.
New screws.
Yeah.
He didn't get these. It's not as if he's had these screws.
He's had them for, what? It'll be 24 days.
Come on, man.
By the time that we actually put toe to leather on tomorrow.
I mean, that's a medical miracle for real, but also, dog.
Borderline reckless.
Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty reckless.
Yes.
And while it still looked like he put decent zip on the ball, he's going to give you some gifts. I don't think it's a coincidence that against the best defense he played is when he threw 3 interceptions and doubled up his turnover-worthy play total on the year. This is a defense in South Carolina that's pretty opportunistic. You're going to force some turnovers. If you don't, you're in for a long day. But I feel very confident you'll at least be able to force 1 or 2. What you do with those opportunities is going to be something else. But you cannot have a loss like you did last Saturday night, in which you got every opportunity. LSU was giving you chances to get back in that game, and you just didn't take advantage of any of it. Mm-hmm. The teams that you play after this week will not give you any of those chances offensively. Oklahoma still has a little bit of that dog in them, and by that dog, I mean like Christmas season type generosity of giving you the football. You're going to have opportunities in this game. If you do not take care of those, take advantage of those, it's going to feel like a punch below the belt.
For sure. And that's, again, I will not state how important this game is for all of the reasons that you laid out. Also because it's a home game in front of a fan base who's on edge. I think it's fair to say, who's on edge, who's going to show up, because we always do.
Yep.
But everybody's showing up with expectation and showing up on edge, because as we were prepping the season, it was going to be a pivotal game, but we thought for different reasons.
Yes. Yeah,
we thought it was going to be for different reasons why this was going to be a pivotal game. And to be quite honestly, this was one of the games where when you do the win-loss thing before season, I was marking it as a W. And we're in a different reality now, and that's fine.
Yep.
But you have to go out there and win it. So one-game season, all the cliches you want to apply, you have to go out there and perform on Saturday.
Now, Shane Beamer was asked, too, what he thinks the keys to the game are in this game, what it's going to take for his team to be able to turn the season around by way of getting a win in this game. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I said this in the press conference the other day, and I certainly want to say it now, but thanks to all of our fans that were down there in Baton Rouge. It was awesome. All the garnet and black on the lower level during pregame warmups. I looked up in the upper deck and saw just a sea of garnet and black in the upper deck, which, as you know, is way up there. So appreciate them. We stayed right there on the interstate, as you know, and every time I looked out my window, I saw cars on the interstate with Gamecock flags headed towards campus because I could see the stadium from my window. So thanks to everyone that made that trip. It means a lot, and I wish we had gotten that win for you. Having said that, that's one of the keys is we need a rocking atmosphere on Saturday. This is their first true road game. They played a neutral site game last week, and they played in an empty NFL stadium in Philadelphia against Temple. So this is the first real true road environment they've, no disrespect to Temple, first real true road environment they've been in, and we need that place rocking on Saturday. So leave early, because I know what fair traffic is like. I got caught in it today trying to leave the office earlier today. So leave early. Don't complain about the traffic, because you know it's going to stink. So get up early, get up here, get tailgating, get lubed up, and get ready to go, because we need that place rocking at 12:45 on Saturday. And then certainly the turnover battle will be a big thing. Two teams that have really good defenses, two teams that haven't been scoring a lot. Hopefully that'll change for one of the teams on Saturday. And we need to win that turnover battle. That was a huge aspect of the game last year, particularly in the first quarter, and it will be this week, this Saturday again.
Get lubed up was number one.
Like it. I can do that.
Easily. All right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you want to do it before like 9 a.m.? Okay. All right, fine. Yeah, twist my arm. And force some turnovers. I think the turnover thing is going to come. I think that's going to be something that happens, that you will force turnovers, because John Mateer will give you opportunities and your defense is good at creating them.
It's not disrespect to somebody if it's a fact, right? We don't have to. We're not scared of Temple putting something on the bulletin board, are we?
Yeah, is Temple tweeting out like their sellout graphic? I don't think they are.
It's just a fact. You don't have to do that, Shade. It's cool. It's cool. You're the big dog. You don't have to apologize to Temple. But anyway, if those are the commands everybody needs to follow. Obviously, turnovers are a key to all game. We look at the different aspects of how they measure themselves as far as games are concerned. But turnovers are extremely important with their quarterback being especially turnover prone, and being likely to give you opportunities to create them.
Yeah, you're certainly going to get many of those opportunities to turn this game on its head. But what's it going to look like when South Carolina has the football? We're coming back from a week where you played at LSU and you only scored 10 points, and 7 of those came by way of a 72-yard run. You're going to have to score more points against an even better defense this weekend to help turn around your season. What is the blueprint for South Carolina to be able to actually score those points? We'll break that down next here on a Football Friday on the Early Game. It's starting to get a little bit colder outside. Not much right now, but it will be soon, which means if you're a big golfer and you need to go have a place to go play, well, I highly recommend my friends over at Pro Swing at either location, whether it's in Chapin or in Forest Acres. Pro Swing has so much cool stuff in there that you need to take advantage of, like the Golf Zone simulators, right? You can rent those by the hour, and memberships for Pro Swing are always available, but I love the Golf Zone simulators. Can take you anywhere in the world, any course, so many to choose from to be able to work on your golf game and test yourself against some of those courses and also learn more about your swing. You can also get a free 30-minute swing evaluation so you can get a couple of pointers, work on your golf game a little bit from seasoned professionals. And, of course, they have lesson packages for anybody in your life, whether they're a beginner, a scratch golfer, or if it's the young golfer in your life looking to learn the sport. 803-592-3916 or always online at proswingcolumbia.com.
Oh, Augusta Highway at I-26, a report of an accident there. You are going to want to stay right in that area, and so just be mindful of that. Again, that is that's Augusta Highway heading in towards Columbia. Do stay to your right. It's right there before I-26. More at Methodist Park Road, to be exact. As far as the forecast goes, yeah, things are looking pretty darn nice for the weekend. We are expecting great football weather, great fair weather. And today's high of just about 75, 81 tomorrow with sunny skies, maybe some afternoon showers on Sunday.
Last Saturday in Baton Rouge, South Carolina was plagued by penalties. Was finally able to run the ball. One could say had a little bit of a breakthrough when it comes to running the ball. But it didn't matter. Your defense forced 3 turnovers of LSU. Didn't really matter because you couldn't take advantage of those penalties. But now you're playing a defense that's even better than LSU's. Top 4 in almost every major category, including turnovers, stop rate, points per game. Think of any defensive metric in your mind, and they are top 4, at least in the nation. It's a really good defense, an elite defense. What does South Carolina need to do to be able to score the points required to win this game?
So we always way back in the day when I played, we used to have an offensive period called SDDs, not STDs.
Totally different.
Total two different things.
Very different connotations.
Yes, SDDs, screens, draws, and delays. And that's the way that you keep teams off balance, especially when they're a blitzing team, especially when they're hyper aggressive, especially when there may be a little bit of a talent deficit from your side of the ball to their side of the ball. And as doing your strategy, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that, hey, we might be at a little bit of a deficit here. But again, as I said yesterday, that doesn't mean there's not a path towards victory. So your screens, your draws, your delays, getting them to use their momentum, their aggression, using that against them is a path that I would like to see the offense explore as far as making plays this Saturday.
I'd like to see them try at least the play action game a lot more, even though in theory, I think, because I've been beating the drum of you're a play action team. Your best offense has been when you fake the handoff and Lenora Sellers rolls out or just steps back in the pocket afterwards and fires a pass 10 to 15 yards downfield, sometimes longer. That might be harder in this game just because the linebackers at Oklahoma are probably the most disciplined I've seen when watching other teams this year. I love watching what linebackers do whenever play action happens. And even as good as defense as LSU is, Whit Weeks would bite on a lot of play action. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma's linebackers, very disciplined. Might be a little harder to do that in this game, but I'd like to see you try. At this point, I'd like to see you keep trying because it still has been the thing that you have executed the best. But when it comes to the screens, the draws, delays, I think the screen game is going to have to be vitally important in this game, and your perimeter blocking is going to have to be as good as it has been all year long. The wide receivers in their heads right now need to be thinking, okay, no blocky, no rocky, because that's going to be maybe one of your best sources of offense in a game in which you are definitely going to be at a deficit at the line of scrimmage. R. Mason Thomas is a bad dude. Mm-hmm. He's a really bad dude. They've got a bunch of dudes on that defensive front that are gifted at getting to the quarterback. Again, 4 of those defensive linemen have at least 10 pressures this season. It's not just R. Mason Thomas. That is a unit that gets after the quarterback. The best elixir to an elite pass rush with a questionable offensive line is to get the ball out. And I have a feeling that there's going to be some self-awareness in that building to say, hey, we're going to just try to get the ball out and get some positive plays because Oklahoma will force negative ones. How many positive ones in early downs are you going to be able to do to at least give yourself third and manageable?
You have to be able to do that. And when you talked about the idea of the screen game, a screen game can take many forms, right? It can take the form of the wide receivers coming in for what they call a tunnel screen, in which you're coming back into the line of scrimmage. You can throw your China screens, which is them getting more upfield. You can throw tight end screens. Those are part of the game plan also. Running back screens are part of the thing. Running back fast to the flats, a play that we talked about, which is kind of trending in popularity as far as football is concerned. There's a lot of ways that you can do this, but as you stated, you're going to have to – Norris is not going to be able to win this game dropping back, being a pocket passer because their defensive line is too good, too strong, too adept at pass rushing. You don't want to have him be a sitting target. You're going to have to try and move things around against them to throw them off balance as you're doing your game plan.
Yeah. And I don't know how well you're going to be able to run the ball in this game. And if you're not able to, the screen game can almost be a replacement of that. And I don't think it's a coincidence that somebody like Steve Sarkisian, who I still believe, if not the best play caller in college football, he's one of the best play callers in college football, an incredible offensive mind, and that's one of the reasons why Texas has been transformed so much here in the last few years under his leadership at head coach, that the first play of the game between Texas and Oklahoma, you know what it was? A screen pass to the tight end. He picked up 11 yards. First play of the game. Used Oklahoma's aggressiveness against them early, and they were able to make that work. Arch Manning didn't throw for 200 yards in that game. I want to say he threw for like 180 something. It was his best game of his career because he was patient. He rolled out when he needed to escape pressure. He was really good at stepping up in the pocket when he needed to, but his average depth of target was 4.2 yards. Texas, and it wasn't like Texas scored 45 points in this game. Offensively, they only scored 16, but that was enough to win the game. And against Oklahoma, 16 offensive points can maybe be enough to win this game. And that kind of brings me to this. What could be realistically a target score for this Gamecock offense to win the game? Enough to where if I told you we're going to do the time traveler thought exercise here, where you're driving home today, I show up in your car, like, Elijah, my car's locked and the car's moving. How'd you show up in here? Don't ask, Preston. Answers to questions you don't want to know the answers to. And I say, all right, South Carolina scores, let's say, 17 offensive points. Are they winning or losing?
Tight. I think it's tight. That's at a push. I think 17 is at a push because I was thinking 3 scores, not 3 field goals. I was thinking 2 touchdowns and a field goal that puts us at 17. That's going to be tight. I think the bonus would be to get us one more score. I think 20 is if you said 20, I'd be like, okay.
You feel good.
I feel good about that. I feel a lot better about 20 than I do 17. But the conflicting reality is that 20 has been very difficult for us to get this year. Impossible, some would say.
Especially against, yeah, some would say. And this is a defense. It's hard to score 20 against.
Some being statistics would say. So yeah, 20 feels a little bit better for me. But again, maybe it's not a defensive score that we're counting on, but maybe it's a defensive setup for a score, a turnover that's deep in. That sets you up like the game last year. You had a turnover, 3-yard touchdown. It wasn't It was an offensive touchdown, yes, but it was really the defense's touchdown.
It was set up, yes.
Yes, so maybe you get one of those, maybe 2 of those, and you start to run the number up. But both offensives have struggled, and we'll give the other defenses opportunities. The
most anybody has scored offensively against this Oklahoma team this year has been Auburn with 17.
And they scored 17 and gave up 10 sacks. So
it still found a way.
There's a path.
There's a path.
Because if I know something about watching this team, we're very capable of giving up those 10 sacks. 17 and 10 sacks sounds like right what we ordered.
It's possible. It's possible. But just know that it's not impossible to score 17. 17, if your defense holds up there into the bargain, can be what wins you this game. But what needs to happen when Oklahoma has the ball? How much of an impact can John Mateer have on this game? We'll discuss how this game is going to look like from the defensive side coming up next on the early game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield, no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with your insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are. School, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows or mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. We say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
We have an accident on Highway 1 or Augusta Highway heading towards Columbia, close to I-26, more at Methodist Park Road. You're going to need to stay right in that area. Again, that's Augusta Highway near I-26. And as far as forecast goes, it continues to deliver this week and into this weekend. 75 the high today under sunny skies, sunny and 80 for game day. Beautiful forecast. And then 80 on Sunday with some afternoon or evening showers a possibility. Currently, though, a little bit cooler than it has been in the morning, starting out your day at 52 on 107.5 The Game.
Before we break down the defensive side of the ball for South Carolina, we're going to head to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines because our pal Marv has woken up with us early this morning and is called in to talk about this game. Marv, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, good morning, guys. One simple question. Everybody's been wondering if Sean Elliott's had enough time to implement his style on the offensive line, but I think the key question is, has Mike Shula had enough time to change his play calling? And I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you for the call, Marv. I wish I could give you a simple answer. I appreciate the simple question. I don't know how simple of an answer I can give you, but I can tell you this. Do I think Sean Elliott's had enough time to implement what he wants? No, because time is not a luxury that you have right now. All the time luxury that you had this season is gone because you had the spring, the summer, camp, and now 6 weeks of 7 weeks, because we count the bye week, of football. You've almost used up all the time you had. So in the question of whether or not there's enough time to make certain dramatic changes, no, you don't have time to do that. But you do have time to make some small adjustments to be able to get ready, at least for this game, right? Everything is leading up for this game. I don't know how much changes in terms of play calling, but you do need to change something. You're not going to become a triple option offense, or you're not going to be an air raid team overnight. Those installs take a little bit if you want to make dramatic changes. But tweaks definitely have to be made, and what those tweaks are, we will see, in 24 plus 6, 30 hours.
Yeah, and that goes back to the idea of time, is that there has not been a lot of time. But to answer your question directly, Marv, Shane did hint that there might be some tweaks to the run game, which, again, I still have questions about. Well, if Sean was the run game coordinator, then why weren't these tweaks being made? But we can find some things out. Also, maybe Sean can voice his opinion a little bit more directly as to put like, we can't block that. Right? Because a lot of times what offensive line or any coach is trying to do, sometimes when you're trying to cover up and you're not necessarily very confident in your job, coach calls something and you're like, sure, coach, I'll try. And then you see what trying gets. But sometimes really good coaches like, we don't need to do that. No, we can't block that. Or, coach, we can't block that. Or, we need to have this in order to block that. So maybe there will be some more conversations between a straighter line between Sean and Mike when they're making play calls.
Yeah, it might be more of a Yoda philosophy. Do or do not, there is no try.
Correct.
We can block this or we cannot block this, right? And that is what maybe having a different voice can help with, is a fresher look as to what it is that you are good at and what it is that you are not good at. Looking at this Carolina defense, though, against Oklahoma, I'm going to keep hammering home the point because this is the pathway to victory. We're going to put the Garnet glasses on in the next segment. I know that's not usually something we do on Tuesdays. We're putting them on today because we're going to do the Lou Holtz accelerated belief of victory. But defensively, this is going to be a big part of it. This offense has struggled to run the ball at Oklahoma. That's actually been a real point of contention for Oklahoma and their fans, is they do not have a really good traditional run game. It's been all right. It's been passable for this, because they're a top 10 team for a reason. It's been passable. But they live and die by the YOLO ball of John Mateer.
What sound does he make?
Yippee! Woo! Every time he throws
Gets me
the ball.
every time.
Sounds like Super Mario. That's all I hear when he throws the ball. I mean, go back and look. Michigan game, a lot of it. That was when I first noticed it, was watching the Michigan game, where anytime he's like slightly under duress, he will leave both feet to throw the ball. And it looks a lot like pressing, like, tapping one of the buttons on your Nintendo 64 to have Mario jump, right? It's exactly what it looks like. That's what I hear every time I hear him or see him throw the football. And he'll sometimes do the woohoo throwing into double coverage. He will give you gifts. And sometimes he will get in his own way. Look no further than the 2-minute drill against Texas in the first half. Oklahoma's up 6-3. They get in the plus side of the field. They have a chance to at least settle for a field goal and make it a 9-3 game going into half. However, John Mateer, no idea how many timeouts they have or how much time is ticking away. They only have one timeout left. And they're wanting to run one more play to get closer, to move the chains, get a little closer for a field goal. And instead of hurrying up to the line with about 30 seconds left, he moseys over there. He walks. He's looking over at the sideline. At this point, 12 seconds, 11 seconds, 10 seconds. And it looks like he has no intention on snapping the ball. Venables has to use that last time out, and he does not look pleased. So it's like, okay, well, you're going to try to run one more play, and maybe you can throw the ball near the sideline, get it out of bounds, and even if it's incomplete, you're attempting a long field goal, right? At this point, it's a makeable field goal, but it's a long field goal, not a high percentage field goal. But what does he do on that last play? He's looking to the end zone. He guesses wrong on where the receiver's breaking, and he chucks it in the end zone, and Malik Muhammad got an interception that was so easy he could have fair caught it. And now you go away with 0 points. It was one of those where I was watching it, and I was like, I cannot believe what it was I just watched. Like, how do you not know how much time is left, how many timeouts you have, and the throws that you can and cannot make in that situation? As gifted as athletically as John Mateer is, and he can make some plays happen that you don't think are available whenever the pocket breaks down. He can pull a rabbit out of his hat, but he can also pull a lump of coal out of his hat, and that's exactly what we've seen a couple times this year, and that's how he goes from being early season Heisman contender to seeing the flip side of that and having a no touchdown, 3 interception game against Texas that ultimately cost them.
Also, you have 3 screws in his hand.
Yes.
And I recently implemented 3 screws, and I don't think we can overlook that, because if they had a viable option behind them, which, by the way, we cannot talk. So it's the pot calling the kettle black. We can't do that. But if they had a valuable option, I'm not sure they would have rushed them that early to come back.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is they have nothing behind him. Like, they have to put him out there, and that's the best they have.
Right.
So I mean, at least we have pretty solid, that we can run with, and not. But I know behind us, I don't know what we have, but
after that.
But we to me, we have a step above Mateer for sure.
So I do think that is a very interesting thing. And again, you want to be physical with him when he gives you an opportunity. You want to put a hat on the ball, and if the hand is part of the ball, that's just how it goes.
That's football, baby. That's showbiz.
It's just football. It's just what it is, man.
And for those wondering, who is the backup for Oklahoma in case John Mateer can't play? That'd be one Michael Hawkins Jr. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he was the quarterback on the first 3 drives for Oklahoma last season when you went to Norman, and he gave you 2 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown, and fumbled that Tonka Hemingway scooped up.
Ooh, let's put him in.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice. It would be nice. That would be a good sign if Michael Hawkins Jr. has to play in this game, because I'm sure that poor kid is still seeing ghosts after the first 3 possessions of that game last year. I saw him get pulled from the game before the 9-minute mark of the first quarter.
Yeah, that was a tough spot.
But how you won that game last year in terms of forcing those turnovers is going to be your blueprint this year. And even if you're not running them back for touchdowns, you're setting them up for easy touchdowns in short fields. Even a struggling offense can find a way to get in the end zone if you only have to travel 25 yards as opposed to traveling 75, 80, sometimes 90. That's going to help you out a lot in this game, but it's time to put the Garnet glasses on. Last week we talked a lot about how good, or not last week, yesterday, last show, we talked about how good this Oklahoma defense is. It is a daunting task. Again, nobody has scored more than 17 points on this defense this year. It seems daunting. But in classic Lou Holtz fashion, we're going to tell you how they're going to beat you. But coming up next, we're going to tell you how South Carolina can win this game. Putting on the Garnet glasses next here on the early game.
Preston here for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been family-owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standards of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, they are proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has got you covered with a huge selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and all the gear that you need. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
Eight zero three 404-6100. That is the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Steve is on the line with us. Let Steve get a word in before I put the Garnet glasses on. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Fantastic.
Good. I hear you about the Oklahoma quarterback. LSU quarterback did the same thing, but he can throw 5 turnover interceptions. But if we're going to come on the field and 3 and out, give the ball back to him, I don't mean when you get the turnovers, you got to do something with it. And the offensive line, I don't. I mean, this a week ain't gonna fix it. I hope it do. But my thing is that we got to score the football, and I mean that's the nature of winning football games. I mean, 10, 13 points is not gonna beat Oklahoma.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that's just my point. And for the life of me, that little Fuller guy who ran that 72-yard touchdown last week, to see him not really get back in the game, that's still confusing me. I don't understand that. But anyway, I hope we win. But it's a lot to fix, you know. And just like we speaking on flaws on our talk show, I'm sure Oklahoma's speaking on flaws on their talk show about our flaws. You know what I mean? So it's just execution and develop the players. And I beat this horse to. I keep saying that it's a player development problem down there. It's got to be because there's some good players down there. So we'll see, and I hope the Gamecocks win. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, Steve, as always, man. And because we said we were going to put on the Garnet glasses, I definitely, what Steve's saying is logically sound. And I would say it's correct because Garrett Nussmeier gave you gifts and you didn't take advantage of it. But what was the biggest killer of that? Penalties. I go back to that possession where you get to LSU's 26, it's 1st and 10, and next thing you know, it's 2nd and 28 or 29 near midfield because you have a false start and an intentional grounding penalty. If you limit the procedural penalties, the goal should be 0. I do not commit a single procedural penalty. I know it's a lot to ask for a group that just committed 7 in Death Valley on last Saturday night. But if you can avoid those, right, I can live with maybe getting beat, right? Coming into the season, I knew R. Mason Thomas is going to beat whatever tackle he's lined up against. I don't care if it's Josiah Thompson, Kason Henry. More than likely, R. Mason Thomas will win at the line of scrimmage because that's who he is. He'll be doing that on Sundays. But if you can eliminate the stupid penalties that make it 1st and 15, and you can get yourself some 3rd and shorts, and you run the ball as well as you did against LSU, even half as much as you did against LSU, you're going to give yourself a chance to score. And that's where I feel like the optimist can see opportunity. The opportunity will be there as long as you don't beat yourself. You will then get a chance to beat another team.
Garnet glasses, 803-404-6100. Give us your best takes on how the Gamecocks, the path to winning this game. My thing is this. Matthew Fuller hit a home run against LSU against the blitz. Oklahoma likes the blitz. If you beat that first line, it is green grass, and you can, as Coach Charlie Strong used to tell us, we don't want them to hit their head on the goalpost against us. So we're looking for Matthew Fuller to hit his head on the goalpost maybe once or twice, beating the blitz. That's my Garnet glasses analysis.
Because, Oklahoma's going to be super aggressive in this game. They are watching that film from the LSU game and saying, oh, we can get to that quarterback. We can get to that quarterback. Maybe if Lenoris identifies maybe a safety blitz or something like that and you have a leak out pass, again, screens, draws, that last D.
Delays.
A delay in even finishing the sentence for me. Screens, draws, delays. If you can get the ball out because you recognize that you recognize ahead of time that nickel might be blitzing, which Oklahoma likes to do a lot. They kind of like Steve Spagnuolo. They will send blitzes from everywhere. They don't discriminate. Everybody is allowed to blitz at any certain time. If you're able to figure that out and you can use that aggressiveness against them, and you can hit a home run or two, even if they don't score, if that just gets you in the red zone, and then you're able to at least take advantage of a few of those, again, 17 points might be enough to win this. It was almost enough to win it for Auburn when Auburn played in Norman. Like Steve said, 10, 13 points won't cut it. 17 might. And I think if you're putting your Garnet glasses on, that's something you have to feel very optimistic about. A lot of other games going on in the SEC. We'll look at some of the highlights coming up next.
Still working that earlier incident on Augusta Highway there at Methodist Park, a little bit before I-26, if you were heading inbound on Augusta Highway. And so as of right now, you need to stay to the right. No other accidents to report at this time. Sunny and 75 today, sunny and 80 tomorrow. Should be very nice game weather and really pretty good weather to round out the state fair. Some showers maybe later in the afternoon on Sunday. Right now, though, it's a little bit overcast and 52.
It's Football Friday. Hour number 2 of the early game on a Football Friday starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we are looking at a big weekend in the SEC. There are so many storylines here in the SEC this weekend. Obviously, with what South Carolina's got going on right now, playing Oklahoma in a game for their season, right? You are fighting to save and salvage your season. But in terms of ranked matchups, there are juicy storylines all over the place. Even in non-ranked matchups, you find a lot of storylines. Every week, I get sent a list of games from our pal Jack Veltri for the Gamecock Central staff and 107.5 staff picks. And you know what? I never thought I would say this sentence, but the toughest game I had deciding who I think is going to win came from LSU Vanderbilt. That's the toughest one. That's the one I sat sitting on that chair in there in Studio 803, and I'm kind of slouched, and I'm like, oh man, because I'm on a tear right now. So I'm like one game behind the lead. I've got to get there. So I'm taking this decision seriously, and I'm like, man, it's in Nashville. LSU fans travel well, but Vanderbilt's actually going to have, some support for the first time maybe in program history. They could have a home field advantage against anyone.
You ever think you'd say that?
Yeah, no.
I didn't think I'd ever say that.
Actually, never's a long time. Like 45 years. Vanderbilt has not been favored against a ranked team in 45 years.
Oh my God.
Wow.
To the point, I'm surprised we have point spread data going back that far.
Yeah, so Jen, yes, you're correct. We have not said that in a long time.
Vanderbilt 2.5-point favorites in a football game against LSU.
We play both LSU and Vandy. What do you think?
Oh, I think Vanderbilt's the better football team right now. They're playing it at home. To me, it's how much do I trust Vanderbilt to be able to win this type
Can
of
they
game.
finish the deal?
Can they
show
finish the deal? Yeah. Man.
In a big spot?
I don't love the matchup of like what Vanderbilt does offensively against LSU's defense because LSU's strength is the linebackers. And the secondary is really good. Vanderbilt loves to go for the big passing play this year. That's kind of been the big difference. Mansour Delane takes away half the field. We saw that firsthand.
Yes.
How he can take away half the field. And if Andrevis Jacobs can't get separation against Mansour Delane, I don't think Junior Sherrill is. I don't think Martell Hyde is. I don't think any of those guys. Those Mansour Delane hands will be rated E for everybody on Saturday. I don't know, man. Part of me thinks LSU figures out something, because that's what that program does. I ended up picking LSU because of program. That was more a program pick, even though the more I look at it, the more I'm like, Vanderbilt probably is the better football team. And if you're LSU, if you don't figure it out now, when will you? Especially on offense. They haven't figured it out on defense. That's not the issue. Mm-hmm. But if LSU can be disciplined enough, which also, big if, But that one still, I've waffled back and forth on because I think that one is genuinely going to be a fun football game.
Ole Miss, Georgia?
No way Ole Miss does it again, right? 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 I wanted to pick Ole Miss in that game, but I was like, I don't know. Like, Ole Miss is in Alabama, and for some reason, Alabama's that Kirby Smart kryptonite. And as much as I love the matchup of Ole Miss's passing attack against Georgia's at times suspect defense, especially that secondary, at Georgia, I don't know if the game being in Athens made it to where I did not feel great to pull the trigger on that one either in terms of being an upset. That one I don't feel great about. But you've seen both those teams too. I mean, Ole Miss and Georgia playing in an environment which at Athens, yes, it is a tough environment. I wouldn't say it's maybe one of the top 10 toughest.
No.
If we are ranking wine and cheese crowds in the SEC, Georgia is rising up that list.
Kirby's had some words about that.
Yep, and Kirby, his, I guess, assessment is incredibly correct. But man, it's a tough task. And Ole Miss, still at 6-0, they're going to drop one, right? I have a feeling this is the one that they end up dropping. Lane will drop one against a bad team every now and then. I think they've kind of taken that out of them. I think their bad game was against Washington State and they pulled it out, whereas last year was against Kentucky and they didn't. So this team is a little different, and I am a firm believer in Trinidad Chambliss.
So?
I just don't think I can't. And that's another one. That's a program game. Like, I can't. Even though my football senses say I really like Ole Miss's chances here. Too chicken to do it. Too scared.
Tennessee, Bama.
Bama's going to beat the brakes off Tennessee.
Ooh. And is that an indictment of Tennessee or a endorsement of Alabama?
A little bit of both. It's an indictment of Tennessee's secondary, and it's an endorsement of what Ty Simpson's doing and what that passing game is doing. And that offensive line finally protecting him well enough to allow him to make plays down the field. Arkansas torched Tennessee in the passing game. Syracuse in the second half torched Tennessee's passing game. Gunnar Stockton's best career game as a passer came in crunch time against Tennessee. They hemorrhage passing yards. That game being in Alabama, that's like the one ranked SEC matchup that I feel really good about. Alabama's an 8.5-point favorite. I would take that -8.5 in a heartbeat.
Most importantly, those excellent analysis, Elijah, as you always do, but you left out one very key important point. How are they going to use Caden Proctor this week?
Oh, buddy.
6'4", 315. He's lining up in the Wildcat.
Send him deep.
6'4", 315.
Put him on the boundary.
He's at the slot.
Kalen DeVore's looking at that secondary and said, you know what? Yeah, Ryan Williams can maybe torch Colton Hood. Yeah, Jermod McCoy's not 100% coming back from that ACL injury. Can they guard Caden Proctor on the outside? Let's see how this big man's wheels are.
I got to be honest, this is one of my favorite plot points throughout this season, is Alabama finding creative ways to use Caden Proctor. And I don't know whether I feel like this is written in his NIL agreement, like, hey, listen, I'm going to stay here at Alabama, but I got to get the ball once a game. And if I was an offensive lineman with a lot of leverage, I'd be looking at this and I'd be saying, hey, coach, you want me here? Give me the ball once. One time. They put him in the Wildcat. They throw screens to him. He blocks. It is really fun to watch. So I will have an eye on that.
Preston Thorne and Jen Jensen, it wasn't too long ago where I was on the dating apps. And you can't help but notice sometimes that people, if they're tall, they're putting it in that bio. And for women I've talked to who also know are on those apps. For men, if you're over 6 foot, it's going in that bio.
Yeah, there's a pride thing with that.
You're letting this person know before meeting them that you're meeting their height requirements. You think Caden Proctor's doing that with Kalen DeBoer? Said, hey, buddy, I'm 6'7". Hey, coach, hope you're doing well today. Hope you had a really good breakfast. Can't wait to see you on the practice field. I'm 6'7", by the way.
Yeah, slipping that in the DMs. Yep.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, it's hard for me to stretch today, coach, being 6'7" and all. It's a little harder for me to go reach my toes. I'm 6'7". I could be posted up in the end zone. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to throw me the ball.
Somebody's child is in the car going crazy right now, doing the...
Yeah. I don't get that. What is that? Somebody help me out here. Because I said that in the press box at LSU. I'm talking to Jack Veltri, and I said, I referred to somebody as being like a top 6-7 team in the nation. I think it's somebody LSU's defense. I don't even remember what it was, but I said top 6-7 team, and he goes, top what team? And I'm like, 6 or 7. He goes, say it how you said it. I'm like, 6, pause, 7.
Oh, how funny.
And he's laughing, and I'm like, this is an internet thing, isn't it? I think I'm chronically online, but I've missed that.
Welcome, my son. You have crossed over the threshold where things go over your head, and you don't know what the youth are saying anymore, and you have to do a lot of digging up and research.
And Jack and Lulu are laughing, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Somebody explain the joke to me. Somebody explain.
Welcome to our side.
Yeah,
son.
yeah.
I felt
You've
old.
crossed over. It's a terrible
I felt
feeling.
like I crossed over. I was like, man, if this happened 10 years ago, I'm in on the joke.
Yeah.
I'm in on the bit. I'm not in on the bit anymore.
Yeah.
I've reached that point where like an internet joke or thing is just whoop, right over
hurts.
my head.
It does. It's a tough time.
But you stay sharp because you dig for the answers
Yes.
and you try
Yes.
to stay on top of it.
You just gotta work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So
Gotta work a little bit
in a
harder.
week stretch, I have missed an internet joke with some peers that are younger than me, and I have also made multiple Super Mario illusions on air. I think I have completely shown my millennial cards.
Put them on the grill.
It put me on the. I'm cooked. I'm so cooked. Luke Fickle, make way. I hope this grill has size for me.
Speaking of grill, Boring Billy, Sunbelt Billy.
Tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow's the day.
Why would you not just go ahead and do this? Or what are we waiting on?
I have no idea. They're waiting on a loss. I guarantee you that's what it is. They're waiting on one more embarrassing loss because I think they feel bad about firing him after beating Texas. Because I heard from somebody that is pretty well connected with that Florida football program that was telling me it's ugly against Texas. He's gone. Well, it wasn't ugly. As a matter of fact, they won the game, so he was not gone. Then they go to Texas A&M and lose, and now I think it's. If they find a way to lose to Mississippi State, it's over.
But is there a certain threshold? Like,
That's a
is
good
it just a
question.
field goal
Good
or
question.
like a 1-point game?
Good question.
You still kind of hang?
And it's like at this point, if you're going to do it, if you're looking for reasons to
Rip
do
off
it,
the Band-Aid. Let's
just
go.
do it.
Yeah.
Go full Nike. Just do it. I don't understand that, especially for a school like Florida that takes so much pride in football and has such a good history
And if
in the
it's
sport.
pretty much public knowledge that we're just waiting for it to happen, like what a terrible way to keep doing your job.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
anytime now the hammer's coming, I'd be so like uninvested at that point.
For sure. Like, man,
Yeah.
do what you want to do.
I'd say
Yeah.
let it happen. I'll collect this check. Fine.
Exactly.
Again, there's not a pity party because his bank account will be well.
Oh,
It will
absolutely.
be well secured. He will secure the
He's well
bag.
compensated.
But that's not what we're doing. But also, man, like, dude, let him go out with some dignity, man. Come
Yeah.
on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just don't march him out there like, hey, you know what? This is it.
I know Billy Napier, when he talks, definitely sounds like what a 1990s PC would sound like if you programmed it to talk, but it was also raised in the Southeast United States. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but he's still a human being.
Yeah.
Let's treat him with a little bit of dignity here.
Yeah.
A little bit. But I think Mississippi State, I think Jeff Lebby and the Bulldogs are full-on coach killers this weekend. We could throw them in the coach killer category. In terms of other games, too, A&M Arkansas is interesting because, again, Texas A&M doesn't find 8-4. 8-4 finds them, and they're 6-0. They have to go to Arkansas. Arkansas is not a good football team, but they're frisky. And frisky can be dangerous for a program
And it's-
on the road who just happens to have 8-4 find them at all times.
And Bobby Petrino's still out there auditioning for his permanent job.
Frisky.
To be honest, he didn't do a bad job last week. Got him close.
He got him close after falling behind by several scores.
Got him close.
He made that score look. He made that game look a whole lot closer than what it actually was at one point.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting. And Taylor Green can play. Here's the thing: Taylor Green is one of those quarterbacks who's so good he's going to give you a chance in every game.
You gave a stat yesterday. It was like basically closest like 2,000, 1,000 or something like that.
He is, yeah. So right now he's at 1,600 passing yards, 1,654, and he is at about 500 rushing yards. He's on pace for technically he's on pace for 3,200 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards. That doesn't happen in college football a lot, especially in the SEC. They're not a dangerous team. Taylor Green is a dangerous player. Torian York, who I think maybe the best at least most well-rounded linebacker in college football. Going to have his hands full spying on Taylor Green. I still think A&M wins because I think they're that good. I think this year is the cycle breaker for them. It has to happen eventually, but I think this is the 8-4 cycle breaking year for A&M. But it has to be. This is the game, though. While it might look like a mismatch on paper, and it is, this is one of those because of A&M's history that makes this awfully intriguing. I kind of like it. Even though not many times when a team's favored by 7.5 on the road do you find it that intriguing. In this instance, I do. But coming up next, it's the early game morning meeting. We have an injury update. And what did Brent Venables have to say about this matchup? We will hear from our guest, not our actual guest, but we'll hear from the early game morning meeting guest, the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, Brent Venables, coming up next. I feel bad for my girlfriend because living with me can sometimes be like living with a toddler because I'm messy. And the carpets reflect that. It almost does look like we have a toddler living in our home because I will be messy. If there's something to be spilled, I will spill it. But my friends at Zero Res help me out because they take care of those stains in my carpet that I can't handle myself. And they take care of the entire home. And Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning, here for you if you have actual toddlers. Or if you're a lot like me and you just spill stuff everywhere and maybe a little irresponsible with how you hold things in your living room, they can help you too. Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning, that zero water technology makes your carpets softer for longer. And they get it soft and clean in a matter of hours, not days. And this month, the month of October, you just mentioned my name, Elijah Campbell at 107.5 The Game, and you can get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for only $119. Take advantage of that deal online today at ZeroResColumbia.com.
Hard scrabble at Wilson Boulevard. Report of an accident there. Also, I-77 southbound just after I-26, which would be exit 1. There is also a report of an accident. 75 sunny today, 80 tomorrow under mostly sunny skies. Looking pretty good for Sunday as well. We could see some afternoon or evening showers rolling in. But really finishing out the South Carolina State Fair this weekend, the game tomorrow, weather looks perfect. 52 right now.
It's time to get updated and time for class to be in session. It's the early game morning meeting where we give you a little insight into the latest availability report. SEC won't let you call it an injury report. And we'll hear what Oklahoma's head coach has to say about this matchup. So that being said, Jen Jensen, hit it.
Good morning. Repeat after me.
Okay.
Today will be an awesome day.
Today will be an awesome day.
Let's go. Good morning, great day. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great day. Today will be an awesome day.
Of course it will, because it's a football Friday. My favorite day of the week. Every week. We have an availability report. We get a little bit more of a clearer picture as to who or who will not be playing for South Carolina and Oklahoma tomorrow. We'll start with Oklahoma. Out, offensive lineman Troy Everett, offensive lineman Jacob Sexton, and offensive lineman Jake Taylor. 3 important offensive linemen there for Oklahoma.
All starters.
Will not be playing. Yes.
Okay.
Doubtful, running back Javonte Barnes, wide receiver Keontez Lewis, tight end Cade McIntyre, offensive lineman Logan Howland. So if Howland doesn't play, then that would be 4 offensive linemen for Oklahoma who are not going to be available. Javonte Barnes, a guy who's in the mix, right? He's not their leading rusher by any means because they kind of mix it up in the backfield. Jay Knott gets some carries. He's been a real disappointment for them. But Torrey Blaylock is the leading rusher on that team with 290 yards, but they're not a great traditional running team. John Mateer sometimes is their leading rusher in games. That's not what they do. For South Carolina, this is where things get a little surprising. Out, Brian Rowe Jr., who was not on the report at all yesterday. Nolan Hay, Kason Henry, and defensive lineman Devontae Miles. So that's 2 offensive linemen with Hay and Henry that are ruled out, a wide receiver in Brian Rowe Jr. and defensive lineman Devontae Miles. Questionable offensive lineman Shedrick Surratt.
Which that is positive news because he's upgraded.
Yes, he has upgraded to questionable. Probable. And they did say on Carolina Calls last night, we'll find that cut for you later in the show, where Shane does feel better about Surratt. And probable, Brandon Cisse and Gabriel Brown-Lodindy.
2 huge. That's huge.
You need your defense to be
As
as fully healthy as possible. Losing Devontae Miles hurts because Devontae Miles will give you some good snaps, right? He's good. He's good for a few spot snaps. He's part of that rotation. But Gabriel Brown-Lodindy, maybe him and Nick Barrett, kind of your ace interior run stoppers.
Right now, yep.
Good to have both those guys in the game.
And obviously, we've seen the impact that Brandon Cisse has had in the secondary.
Yes, I mean he is, in terms of just a lot of the numbers that you see, one of the more effective defensive backs. And somebody's going to have to follow Deion Burks around. That's what we haven't talked about a lot because we talked about Oklahoma's offense. A lot of this discussion centers around John Mateer. But John Mateer's best weapon in that offensive passing game, I know Isaiah Satania has been maybe statistically the best one, but the way they use Deion Burks is fascinating. A lot of reverses, a lot of sweeps, a lot of funkiness, and using him in different ways. And he's also really good about 10 to 15 yards down the field in the middle of the field. Deion Burks is a guy that is the normal responsibility for a nickel corner. And that's what Brandon Cisse has been really good at being this year. I think Brandon Cisse playing in this game is a must for South Carolina to pull off this win. I don't know if you're able to pull it off without Brandon Cisse. So him being probable is a good sign. Now, what did Brent Venables have to say? We've talked about his defenses. He's a defensive mastermind. We saw what he's done, or we have seen what he's done at Clemson as the defensive coordinator. He has taken that to Oklahoma this year. He's in full charge of that defense. It is his defense, and it's arguably the best in America. It's really, really good. So what does he think they're going to have to do to stop LaNorris Sellers on Saturday? Here were his thoughts.
He's got great toughness to him. He's really hard to bring down. He like ducks down, and next thing you know, he pops out of there. And he's really hard to tackle. It's hard to get 2 or 3 guys to get him down, let alone one. You're lucky to get one guy on him, right? They got 5 guys up front to block, plus a back. That's 6. Sometimes it's 7 with the tight end, and then so if you got one guy free, that's 8. And now you got all these freaks out here that, Harbor and Vandarius. These guys are like really good. They're really fast. So they've done a really good job of putting good players around him as well, and so you don't want to be in a whole lot of those one-on-ones either. So it makes it hard to decide on how you're going to play him, but great challenge. I'm glad that they talked about him, and they watched the tape and they played against him once, and he's been able to do that against a lot of people.
The first thing that's going to come up is his elusiveness, which means I have a feeling Brent Venables was watching that tape against LSU, and he saw that LSU's maybe able to corral him a little bit easier. If they send, the more bodies you send to him, the more of a chance you have to be able to bring him down before the first down marker. LSU brought a lot of pressure. I think he's probably going to take a page from that Blake Baker playbook. Happily, you're not going to have to twist his arm to send pressure, but I think that's probably the go-to for Oklahoma in terms of what they do defensively.
First off, Brent Venables, what a solid voice, right?
He does. Raspy a little bit.
A little rasp to it. It was a very,
deep,
very
raspy voice.
Very nice to listen to. Number 2, they can try all they want. We've seen this on film over and over again, and Brent alluded to that. You saw Whit Weeks last week. He had a clear, open shot at him, and then he was holding his hands like, what just happened? That's going to be the thing, and so that's why Oklahoma's going to need to get multiple people on LaNorris, because one guy does not really stand a chance. You very rarely see him ever get tackled by a singular person, unless the person has the drop on him and he doesn't see him. But if he sees you or even feels you, good luck. It just hasn't happened a lot on film.
It's kind of like that saying when it comes to wide receivers and defensive backs, or defensive backs guarding wide receivers. It's like, if he's even, he's leaving, right?
He's leaving.
It's that way with LaNorris Sellers and a linebacker in the backfield. If it's even, he's leaving, right? You're not one-on-one tackling LaNorris Sellers.
Yeah, you see that DB backing up, and you see his face like, oh, boy.
I'm in trouble. Help! Safety, help! That's what a lot of linebackers do whenever they think they've got LaNorris Sellers tackled. It's edge rusher, defensive tackle,
somebody.
Help. Yeah, somebody help. And they're obviously, every team that plays South Carolina is going to be very cognizant of it. But I think one thing we've seen, because even then, LaNorris Sellers, I guess, credited with, 2 sacks in that game? Probably should have been sacked 10 times. If we want to talk about what South Carolina needs to do to win this game, he's going to have to limit the amount of sacks he takes by being elusive in the backfield. And that's something that Oklahoma very, very aware of.
I'll say this. If I got to slip my Garnet goggles on, I'll say this. LaNorris Sellers ain't no Jackson Arnold.
Ain't that the truth?
So, I mean, They had 10 against Jackson Arnold, and Jackson Arnold, you can take it as whatever you want, but you ain't LaNorris.
You're not LaNorris in terms of being elusive in the pocket. So, are they going to have a chance to get 10 sacks? Yes. Will they bring LaNorris Sellers down 10 times? Something else entirely. But one thing we'll talk about on the other side, Oklahoma and that defense really good
at baiting offensive linemen into false starts. We saw a lot of false starts from South Carolina. Professor P is going to break down why a team like Oklahoma is so good at doing that next.
Hey guys, listen. Have you lost your edge? Maybe brain fog's got you struggling to focus. Maybe you're working out and not seeing the results that you're used to. Well, there's a reason that you're not feeling like yourself, and it might be low testosterone. But you don't just have to live with it. You can reclaim your drive, your energy, and your focus at the Men's Clinic. With Dr. Dan Bouknight, and he will get to the bottom of it. And this isn't some faceless online program. Dr. Bouknight personally tailors your treatment program based on your labs and your symptoms. And here's the best part. Your initial consultation with Dr. Bouknight is absolutely free. You can get your T-level checked for absolutely free. So you have nothing to gain and everything to lose. At the Men's Clinic, you'll find a non-threatening, comfortable environment that's open to hearing your concerns. So don't wait. Call them at 803-875-MENS. That's 803-875-MENS.
Hard scrabble at Wilson Boulevard, an accident they're still working. Also, I-77 southbound after I-26. That would be exit 1. Shop Road at Atlas and Windsor Lake Boulevard at Alpine Road. Beautiful forecast on tap for the weekend. Sunny today and tomorrow. 75 today, 80 tomorrow. And come Sunday, we're looking for a high of, where did it go? A high of 80, as a matter of fact. Afternoon or evening showers are a possibility, but a great way to round out the South Carolina State Fair and great game day weather for tomorrow. Starting off your morning a little bit cooler than it has been recently. It's 52.
One of the many challenges for South Carolina's offensive line in this game against Oklahoma is not just their ability to win at the line of scrimmage and get to your quarterback and make life miserable. But they are really good at baiting you into moving early. This is an offensive line that had 7 procedural penalties against LSU. They moved early a lot. They're going to have to avoid moving early a lot if they want to give their offense a chance to win in this game. But why is Oklahoma so good at making teams move and have false starts? Well, that's where Professor P comes in.
It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings. Football, Wildcat football, Wildcat football, Wildcat football.
All right. Oklahoma's really good at doing this because they are crazy. And the number one rule about fighting a crazy person is they are going to be crazier than you are. When you go to fight somebody and they hit themselves in the head, before you like, I don't know if I want to fight this person.
You're already hitting yourself.
Yeah, you already broke a bottle over your own head. What are you doing? And so with Oklahoma, they can fake blitzes, they can move, they can do all of these things because it's a possibility that Brent Venables might send a blitz from anywhere. It might be the corner. It might be the nickel. Maybe I have 3 linebackers blitzing and 3 defensive linemen are dropping in coverage. Maybe they're all coming. Maybe they're all going. Maybe none of them going. We don't know. And that's the whole beauty/chaos of the Brent Venables defense. And so what they do is they get to the line of scrimmage and they line up in whatever their initial formation would be. And then oftentimes you'll see them as the offense is going into its reads, whatever, they'll move/stem/flash/show one look, and then they'll move to another look. Why do defenses do this? They do this to mess up the counts on the offensive line because everything on the offensive line is all about counting people. If you have 2 people here, I know that me and the guard are working on this double team and we're going up to the mic or whatever before we get super nerdy into the language, right? But if that guy shifts, now it changes our assignment. This is especially an issue with our offensive line, as we heard throughout the year, that communication has been an issue. There has been a lack of communication between offensive linemen, between offensive linemen and the quarterback, between coordinator, quarterback/offensive line. So that's why this presents a lot of the different things. And so what happens is the Oklahoma defense will line up, and as Lenoris is going through his calls or whatever, you might hear something like, shift. Now, here's the thing.
What'd you just say?
Shift.
Oh, an FT. Gotcha.
Yes.
It's way away from the microphone so you can't hear it. Right? And so
No dump button needed.
exactly. And so what happens is, with that being said, there is a rule that the defense you are not allowed to simulate the offensive snap count.
That is a penalty.
That is a count. That is a penalty.
Delay of game, I believe.
So if the offense goes to the line and they say, down, set, go. That's the offensive snap count. Now, me as a defender, because all defenses are rule-abiding citizens, we would never try and play in the gray area. We don't do that.
Ever.
So what you would do as a defense, when the offense says down, set, go, you might say, get. I'm telling my defense to get. I'm not telling your offense to go. And that would be Brent Venables' argument to say, hey, we're not simulating their snap count. We're talking to my guys. We just happen to be talking very loud and, maybe at the same time as they might be snapping the ball. That's not what we're trying to do. We're only trying to communicate with ourselves, Mr. Ref. Wink, wink, wink. And so this is what teams do very, very frequently. You'll have some sort of move, shift, go, whatever the case is. And that's where they're trying to, you're talking to yourself, but also, hey, if the offensive line jumps off sides too, I'm sorry.
It's like if you're in a conversation with somebody, but you want somebody outside of that A-B conversation, you want C to hear it, you might speak a little more loudly, right? You might say it a little louder so that person who's on the other side of the room can hear it, because you want to get either one, you get them involved, whatever reason, whatever nefarious reason you have inside your head to get them involved in the conversation you want. Like, I wasn't talking to you, but I wanted you to hear it. It's kind of like what a defense will do with move, especially. I think that's probably the most effective one.
Right. So, yeah, move. And then you're the offensive line. Who's moved? Me?
Me?
Right. And so that's why you heard them talking about Sean Elliott this week having, being in front of them, yelling out, barking, doing all kinds of different things. There'll be sudden moves and all that type of stuff. It's all to mess up the offensive line. So it's imperative that the offensive line is very stoic. You're staying, you're waiting, you're waiting until when you're supposed to go. Unfortunately, with Oklahoma doing this and with our past history, we have to see how that matches up this Saturday.
That's one thing I did notice during the Texas game when watching that one. That one stood out a lot because Texas did get duped a few times on that. Right?
I'm sure you saw Sark going crazy on the sideline.
Sark going crazy, and a couple times in an attempt to do it, they would jump a little bit. Even Oklahoma, like sometimes the move calls were so aggressive, an interior defensive line for Oklahoma would jump a little bit.
Yeah, you get nervous, like, oh.
And then it's offside. They were drawn offside. They drew themselves offside a couple of times in that game doing that. Just because, again, they're crazy, right? That's one of the reasons why this defense is so good, is because they wreak havoc, and you don't wreak havoc being a normal person on that football field.
Right, and that's the whole reason, because a lot of times defenses try to do these types of things, but you know what we're going to do. You're only going to go from a 1 to a 3 technique, and you're either going to be here or you'll be there. Oh, big deal. You shifted over one gap. Whoa.
The LeBron James.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah. But that's not the case with Brent Venables, because he is genuinely nuts. The things that he does, they make sense in his mind, but they don't make sense if somebody was to draw it on the board technically, right? It doesn't make sense according to the theories of defense. He overloads. He does things that are maybe not quote-unquote fun. He does things that, and this was a great point that Shane brought up, he does things that if his defensive coordinator did it, he'd be pulling his hair out. But since he's the defensive coordinator, he can do it.
Yes.
Same thing like Shane.
Luxury.
Like Shane can do things on special teams that if his special teams coordinator were to do that, he'd be, what are we doing?
Mad. Yeah.
But since I'm the guy that makes the calls, I can do it. So that's the advantage that Brent Venables' defense has.
Introduces a lot of calculated craziness.
Calculated crazy.
Yeah. Brent Venables, a calculated crazy. Not just any type of crazy, a calculated crazy. Obviously, we're going to be locked in on South Carolina, Oklahoma tomorrow. But what are some other games that Preston Thorne is locked into? What's the game he's the most locked into if he can only watch one other game outside of the one happening at Williams-Brice tomorrow? We'll find out next on Pick or Click.
Hey guys, it's Preston again, back talking about the men's clinic. Did you not hear what I said last time? Maybe you forgot, because that brain fog might be getting to you. Well, guess what? You can get all your focus, reclaim your drive, and get it all back with the men's clinic. And Dr. Dan Boltnight is here to help you. He's a respected local physician, and he will get to the bottom of it. the Men's Clinic, you'll find a non-threatening, comfortable environment that's open to hearing your concerns. I know you don't want to hear all of that. You kind of may be nervous about going in there. Well, Dr. Boltnight handles your treatment and your initial consultation personally, and the consultation is absolutely free. Get your T levels checked. Don't have to wait. Call them at 803-875-MENS. That's the Men's Clinic at 803-875-MENS.
Of course, you're going to be locked in at 12:45 for kickoff between South Carolina and Oklahoma, but it's another fun weekend of college football, and Saturdays in the South always deliver. And there are plenty of games, not just in the Southeast United States, that are going to deliver but across the United States of America. Preston Thorne has a TV.
I do.
He'll be watching other games.
I will, and this is one of the reasons why I do like an early game, because you get it over with in one way or the other. However this goes, I can get in my feels, or I can feel great, and I can move forward.
For the first time since week 1, I'll be able to watch an entire slate of afternoon and night games. I am pumped. I'll get to catch half of the 3:30 slate, because of everything that we do after the games. But I'm looking forward to waiting out traffic by walking over to Jay's Corner Bar, which we will be doing the Gamecocks Game Day show starting at 7:30, myself and Tyler Head. But my plan is to walk back there after the game, sit down and enjoy the last little bit of Ole Miss Georgia and catch some of Tennessee Alabama. And catch some of those games that are happening in the night slate. So we get to enjoy them. But if you could only watch one game, Preston Thorne, we're going to find out which one that is, because it's pick or click. Again, here's the premise. I will give you a game. I'll give you a game A. And I'll then provide you game B. If you would rather stick with game A, you click onto the next option. If you would rather pick game B, you will pick the alternate game. So your game A, to start things off, SMU at Clemson. The two teams that played in last year's ACC title game. That was a pretty fun game in terms of entertainment. And the game B I present to you, LSU at Vanderbilt. Are you picking LSU at Vanderbilt, or are you clicking to the next option and sticking with SMU Clemson?
Pick. We talked about it a little bit earlier. For the first time favored in 45 years. I'd like to see Vandy do this. I don't know if they can, but I'd like to see Vandy do that. Let me pick Vandy.
LSU at Vanderbilt. I now present to you Tennessee at Alabama.
Pick.
Oh.
Are we going to use Caden Proctor in a strange way? Wildcat? Slot screen?
Is he going to throw a pass?
Is he going to throw a pass? What's going to happen with Caden Proctor? I'm so invested in this plot all year.
Give him the ball on an end around. Please. Please. You have Tennessee at Alabama. I know you won't pick this one, but I am awfully intrigued because I like high-scoring football games. Baylor at TCU.
Click. Baylor. Alert. Dave Aranda. Check your seat, buddy.
If he loses this game, they're 4-3.
Check your seat, buddy.
And they will have squandered a good opportunity in what is a chaotic Big 12 outside of Texas Tech.
Dave Aranda is the opposite of a Brian Kelly, where I think he's a good coach, but inspires nothing in the fan base.
Absolutely nothing.
Inspires nothing in the fan base. He is best off in a lab drawing up defenses.
Dave Aranda is the perfect example of you can put the defensive coach at Baylor, but you can't take the Baylor out of
That's
Baylor.
true. And I'm sure he hates it every day.
A defensive coach, and he's having to win games in the 40s.
Oh.
The man lives in hell.
He does not like that.
He is not happy with the life he has chosen. You have Tennessee at Alabama. I present to you Texas A&M at Arkansas.
You know what? This is the week. I have not watched a full game of Texas A&M all year. This is the week. Pick it.
Oh, picking Texas A&M at Bobby Petrino, fighting, auditioning for that job. You have A&M at Arkansas. I present to you Ole Miss at Georgia.
I picked it for a little while. Click it. I guess I'm not going to watch a whole Texas A&M game. Click it. I want to see, man. I've been increasingly intrigued with Gunnar Stockton, who, again, as I said, I don't know if he's good, but he got that dog in him.
He's a dog.
I'm curious to see how that plays out.
So you're at Ole Miss at Georgia. Mississippi State at Florida. I know
Click.
you're invested in the Billy Napier subplot, but not that invested in the Billy Napier subplot.
You know why? Because they already told me the ending. He's going to get fired. Spoiler alert. So it's not a great movie because I already know how this ends. Maybe it ends here or maybe it ends there, but it's going to end.
Southern Cal at Notre Dame.
Click.
And lastly, the Holy War. Utah at BYU, at undefeated BYU.
You know, those are my guys. That's my guys. Kyle Whittingham and them boys. Pick that one. I'll check that one out.
Okay. Utah, that's the most underrated game of the slate. 2 hours down, 1 to go. Preston's got a split, but we'll continue our South Carolina-Oklahoma preview next in hour number 3.
Hardscrabble at Wilson Boulevard, an accident still in progress there. Also I-20 westbound at Bush River Road. I-77 southbound at I-26, still a work in progress. Shop Road at Atlas and Windsor Lake Boulevard at Alpine Road. And yeah, the forecast this weekend looking really, really nice. 75 and sunny today, 80 with some sunshine for game day tomorrow, 80 on Sunday, and maybe some afternoon or evening showers coming in. But as we said before, great weather for football, great weather for the South Carolina State Fair. It's 52 currently on the early game.
Hour number 3 of the early game starts right now. It's the early game, third and long hour. I'm Elijah Campbell. She's Jen Jensen, our man Randy Young, the engineer extraordinaire over in the video production room, if you will. Our third and final hour, continuing our preview of this game, South Carolina against Oklahoma. We set the scene for you earlier today. A game that South Carolina absolutely has to have. You're 3-3 right now. You just fired the offensive line coach. Losing this game could be one step closer to everything going off the rails. There's a lot of importance here, and it's not getting any easier. You know the schedule. We've talked about it. We have not shied away from how hard this schedule is after this game. And you know it's hard whenever a team that was in the top 10 last week is the easiest game you have for the next 3, because Alabama comes to town next week. Then you travel to Ole Miss. Then you travel to Texas A&M. All 3 of those teams I just mentioned currently in the AP top 10. If you lose all 4, including tomorrow and those 3 games after that, I can do the math. That puts you at 3-7 and completely eliminates you from bowl contention. Things can get off the rails if you don't take care of business tomorrow at 12:45 at Williams-Brice Stadium. But one thing Preston and I did earlier in this program was we put on our garnet glasses. Vitally important if you want to have optimism going into this game. And when you put your garnet glasses on, one thing you can see is a level of unpredictability that this offense for Oklahoma presents. There's a large element of unpredictability here because of John Mateer. John Mateer coming into the season, many viewed, myself included, as the most important transfer in the Southeastern Conference because he could take what is a really good offensive roster and a really good defense and elevate them. Last year, Oklahoma had a lot of issues, most of them injuries, and offensive play, specifically at the quarterback position. Michael Hawkins struggled a lot. Jackson Arnold cost them games, and there's a reason Jackson Arnold is no longer the quarterback at Oklahoma. There's a reason he's at Auburn. There's a reason they didn't maybe give out a lot of NIL money for Jackson Arnold to return to Oklahoma. That's why he's at Auburn right now. But they bring in John Mateer, and they know exactly the type of quarterback he is. What John Mateer is at Oklahoma isn't much different than what he was at Washington State. He's a high-risk, high-reward type quarterback. And those type of quarterbacks allow for certain games to have an element of unpredictability that can be exciting if you're a fan of Oklahoma. It also can be frustrating. It can be exciting for a team like South Carolina because he can open the door for you to get back in the game. It can also be frustrating for South Carolina if he breaks out of a few sacks, if he scrambles and he makes plays, if he turns what should be a 5-yard loss into a 15-yard gain. That's what makes this game even from just a third-party perspective, so fascinating. Because Oklahoma has a lot to play for, too. This is a team that, after their first 5 games of the season, had legitimate college football playoff hopes. This was one on the road at South Carolina. They have to win because their schedule gets hard, too. They still have to play LSU later in the season. They still have tough games on their schedule. Again, they're in the SEC. South Carolina. But if I put my Garnet glasses on, I watch what John Mateer was post-surgery. Now, in terms of the decisions he makes, there's not much of a difference pre- and post-surgery. The ball looks, for the most part, the same coming off John Mateer's hand. Now, for those who don't know, John Mateer had surgery 17 days before the Texas game to fix a broken thumb on his right hand. That is the hand he throws with. They put 3 screws in that thumb, and that thumb gave him problems. It bled. It looked nasty. You could see, even like in the second quarter, if you go back and watch that game, there's blood on his white jersey, kind of like on the back. You can tell where he's wiping his hand off because maybe it was affecting how he threw the ball, and you got to keep that thing as dry as possible and make sure that those cuts don't come back open. He threw 3 interceptions. Now, the season going into it, he threw 3 interceptions in the previous few games he's played. He threw 3 in that game. Going into that Texas game, he had what was considered 4 turnover-worthy plays by Pro Football Focus. In that game against Texas, he had 4 alone in that game. He doubled his turnover-worthy play numbers in just one game. Texas took advantage of the unpredictability, and they kept Oklahoma out of the end zone. And as good as Oklahoma's defense is, and that's one thing we've really harped on this week, was Carolina's offense struggling to get the ball past LSU's 26 without the assistance of an explosive run from Matthew Fuller, was in large part the offensive line struggles. Lenore Sellers had his struggles too. He took 2 intentional groundings that you absolutely can't take, and now this week you're playing a defense that's better than the one that you just saw against LSU. But there's still hope to win this game. This is the one game out of the 4 remaining in the SEC that I believe you can win in the teens. And we've gotten some empirical evidence that you can beat Oklahoma in the teens. Scoring 30 points, I think, is completely off the table. Avoiding negative plays, completely off the table. Shane Beamer said as much in the press conference, because when I asked him about what makes a Brent Venables defense so hard to prepare for, and especially with the one with as much talent as this one has right now and as productive as this one is, he describes the defense, what they do, how multiple they are, but at the end he said there will be negative plays. And it was a moment of realism. There's going to be negative plays. You're going to have struggles scoring the ball against Oklahoma. Now, if we come in here on Monday, and I sit in this very seat right now here in Studio 803 in the early game third and long hour, and we're talking about a 31-point output from South Carolina, our whole outlook on the season dramatically changes. But I feel pretty good telling you that's not going to be the case. But why do I still feel like South Carolina has a chance if I don't foresee them scoring more than 20 points in this game? It's because that unpredictability factor that we've alluded to with John Mateer. With a quarterback like that, you can play against a defense that is elite and still feel really good about your chances if the offense gives you the ball. And here's why. It's not just that John Mateer is prone to giving the ball away. It can sometimes happen where on the field, or depend where on the field he throws the ball away. Now, South Carolina's defense, as good as they are, they will bend, but they don't completely break, right? We saw the three turnovers that LSU had. 2 of them were at the goal line. And one of the reasons what made it harder to capitalize on LSU's mistakes is because one drive started at the 1-yard line, right? Whenever you force that fumble or you got the interception, starts at the 1-yard line. The other one was a touchback. And the other one was an interception that DQ Smith could have fair caught, but it was deep in your own territory. So it's basically almost like punting, like a really good punt. If you can force 1 or 2 of those turnovers, maybe deep in Oklahoma territory, then your offense doesn't have to travel as far. And maybe you can score the adequate amount of points needed. Teams get outgained and win games all the time. Teams give up more yards per play than what they're able to generate. and win games all the time. Does it make it more likely? No, but it opens up the possibility that you can win the game. For me, the big thing is, can you take advantage? Unlike last time, can you take advantage of the unpredictability factor of John Mateer? I'm more on the fence, on the side of the fence, rather, of John Mateer making more mistakes than game-changing throws. Again, I almost thought it was kind of reckless that they played him so early after surgery. They played him in that Texas game. I looked at this game when it was announced that he was having surgery on his broken thumb as the game where he probably comes back. I looked at this game as the one where this is the 50-50 game, right? Where we're going to be constantly refreshing. I have my laptop right here where I'm constantly pressing the refresh button to see the SEC availability report to see exactly if he's probable, questionable, or out. But they played him in the Texas game, and it might have been a little early. That might mess with maybe the progress that he's had on that thumb because he took some hits. He's not afraid to get tackled, too. He's a physical runner with the football. The John Mateer element, as good as he can be at times, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm just solely critiquing his decision-making or how well he takes care of the ball, because for almost every turnover-worthy play he has a big-time throw. And whenever he scrambles outside the pocket, he can be electric. And he's really good at throws across the middle of the field. That's really where his bread is buttered. Oklahoma's got a lot of receivers that excel between the numbers. Deion Burke's one of those guys. Isaiah Satania, one of those guys. They can be crafty. But Oklahoma this year on offense hasn't scored against Power 4 competition. So I'm excluding the Illinois State game and the Kent State game because I truly believe those games give you nothing in terms of evaluation because both teams are bad. But against Power 4 competition, home against Michigan, home against Auburn, neutral site game against Texas, they have not scored more than 3 touchdowns in a game. They scored 3 touchdowns against Michigan, and that was John Mateer's best game. Remember, that was the game where it almost made it feel like John Mateer might have had a legitimate chance to win the Heisman. He was kind of a Sepp Heisman front runner after that game against Michigan on national television. But since that game, that's the only one they scored 3 touchdowns. They have not scored more than 3 touchdowns in a game offensively since then. They had 24 points against Auburn, but they had a lot of field goals. They settled for a ton of field goals, and they had a safety at the end of the game. The way they got to 24, a little more unconventional than how a normal team gets to 24. They rely, a lot like South Carolina, they rely on their defense to be able to set up their offense because they don't have a reliable running game, which has really been the biggest disappointment so far for Oklahoma. Because it wasn't just John Mateer they brought in, but they brought in Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator, who was at Washington State, and they brought along to Oklahoma with John Mateer. This is the one game out of the 4 remaining in the SEC where you have a flaw in the team you're playing against. Oklahoma is very good, and there's a reason why they're favored. But you are going to be heavier underdogs against a team like Alabama, on the road at Ole Miss, on the road at Texas A&M. Firmly believe A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama, more well-rounded teams, which is what makes this one so important. Because if you do fall in those other 3 games, that gets you to 6 losses. Then you have the Coastal Carolina game, the game against Clemson at the end of the year, in which anything can happen in that type of rivalry game, in which you can at least salvage a bowl game. Yes, it's disappointing. But if this team wants to be able to play a 13th game, you have to have this. I like to think every game's a must-win, but this one's a little more important. But this one is more important because out of all the tough games left on the schedule, maybe the most winnable in the SEC. It's the best chance you have to get at least a second SEC win on the season. I know that's not what anybody wanted to hear at the beginning of the season, but that's what makes this one a whole lot more winnable. But for South Carolina, too, the headline all week has been the offensive line. We've talked about the offensive line as much this week as we have in any week so far this season. Lonnie Teasley's fired. Sean Elliott has taken over control of the offensive line as the offensive line coach. It's not going to look perfect, but what does it need to look like for South Carolina to beat Oklahoma? We'll discuss that next here on the early game. There we go. Yeah, I can hear myself. What's that red thing say over there? Yes. Okay, so that's me, Jen. Okay. Cool. That's Jen's live. I've got Ecton Law at 8:45. I know it's going to say something else up there, but since Preston had to leave, he had to do one more in that second hour. So I've got Ecton Law at 8:45, and I think there's one at. I think I have one more. I have a mid-state somewhere in there. I can't remember where it is. Jen texted it to us. I need to. Right. Yes. Absolutely. Let's see. Jen sent us that text message. I should probably look at that. Okay, mid-state is at 8:26. I'm gonna write that down too. Yo.
Hey, it's Jen. Are you looking for a countertop for a kitchen or a bath? Maybe you're wanting to update your yard with some hardscaping. Well, I have the place. It's Carolina Stone Craftsman, just outside Columbia in Chapin. Understanding that kitchen and bath projects can be a significant investment, they really do work to deliver the highest quality and most affordable granite, marble, and quartz while still providing the best customer service. It's simple. Great countertops with no compromises. And you really need to check out their showroom to see what I mean. Their indoor showroom and their outdoor showroom.
for the Gamecocks tomorrow at 12:45. Finally a day game at Williams-Brice Stadium. I love night games as much as the next person, but it's going to be nice to be there a little earlier and with a little bit of daylight. But look at our Firehouse Subs text line. We get one nameless texter who says, sounds like y'all are hyping up the OU defense. They got embarrassed by the Longhorns. My only response will be a question, is what you would consider getting embarrassed. Because, yeah, Texas scored 23 points. 7 of those came by way of a punt return for a touchdown. And that leaves you with 16 points. Really, Texas only scored 1 touchdown in that game and kicked 3 field goals. Oklahoma's defense is really good. Honestly, getting for Texas to get 302 total yards against Oklahoma, a good day for them considering they've had a lot of offensive struggles against really good defenses so far this year. And honestly, not even being facetious here, the 160-something yards that Arch Manning threw for in that game was his best game because of how good that defense is, because he was able to move the ball down the field enough for them to be able to win that game. He didn't make any turnovers. He didn't make bad decisions with the football. They did a lot offensively that wasn't sexy, but it was enough to win that game because that's what you got to do against Oklahoma, which is another reason why, because Oklahoma's offensive struggles, that you can score 16 offensive points and still win. Do I feel great about it? No, but you can still win against this team by scoring 16 offensive points just because of that unpredictability factor that John Mateer presents, what I just went over in the last segment. Want to bring up one thing with the offensive line, though, because that's really the big thing for Carolina, right, is the offensive line. It cost you the game against LSU. It killed so many of your drives. It's the reason your average third down was over 10 yards in distance. Converting 3rd and 10s can be really hard against good defenses, and you found out it was hard against LSU. It's going to be hard against Oklahoma. You can't make it more difficult. Now, with the coaching change on the offensive line, out is Lonnie Teasley, in is Sean Elliott as offensive line coach. You can't expect in a week the tournament around to be dramatic. We've joked here in this studio before that if they come out and they look like a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, then we have then seen Extreme Makeover offensive line edition, right, when it comes to this offensive line. But Ty Pennington's not going to be on that field. He's not going to be yelling to move that bus and have a completely different offensive line that is going to help you run for 300 yards and give Lenore Sellers time to throw for 300. Don't expect that. But there's ways they can still win this game with just marginal improvement, and it's going to begin and end with penalties.
In the spring game, you did get to call a play.
I mean, they have not contacted me yet. I mean, I'm a
I'm
little behind on
surprised.
catching up with text messages.
Oh,
maybe,
okay.
Maybe it's buried in there. Maybe
What?
it's like, Elijah, do you have any more wishbone plays
Yeah.
that we could call? It did pick up 29 yards. It did.
See?
The numbers speak for themselves.
Just saying.
Maybe they throw something Oklahoma's not expecting, like a play from the wishbone would be pretty funny. A trick play from the wishbone would be funny. But the offensive line can improve marginally, right? Papa Joe on the Firehouse Subs text line says, can Sean Elliott suit up? He could bring the physicality. And I do want to have an over-under on headbutts before the game. I'll probably set that at like 8.5. Over probably could win you some money there. Could probably hit because that man brings the energy. But can he bring the discipline? Because that's the big thing for this offensive line. I'm not expecting them to keep our Mason Thomas out of South Carolina's backfield. Because you know why? There'll be teams on Sundays that play football professionally that will have a hard time keeping our Mason Thomas out of their backfield and away from their quarterback. It's a tall task. I'm not expecting that. There's going to be pressures on Lenore Sellers. There will be negative plays. Shane Beamer said so himself, that there will be negative plays because wreaking havoc is what this Oklahoma defense does. One of the best in the country at forcing negative plays, at making teams go backwards. So if Oklahoma's going to do a good job of making you go backwards, you can't make yourself go backwards. And the onus isn't just on the offensive line here. It'll be on Lenore Sellers too, because 2 of the worst penalties you had in that LSU game were the intentional groundings, were the plays where he would drop back. He kept stepping back when the pressure came and would try to throw the ball away. And it either doesn't get to the line of scrimmage with a receiver in the vicinity of the area, or he doesn't escape the pocket to where that does become an intentional grounding. Those plays are just as good as sacks for the defense because it's a loss of down penalty and it's a big loss in terms of yardage. If you can avoid the procedural stuff, Preston did a fantastic job of breaking down what Oklahoma does in the line of scrimmage with move calls, right? Or their ability to make an offensive line jump. The goal should be 0. In any game, 0 procedural penalties, especially now that we are going into game 7. The procedural penalty stuff has to be out the window. And the fact that you had them in game 6 is what made that such a frustrating loss on top of everything else that has happened with this team so far this season. But if you have a significantly fewer number, and it's going to help that you're at home, but if you're able to have a game where you maybe have 1 or 2 procedural penalties and none of them are total drive killers, then you're giving yourself a chance, especially if Oklahoma is turning the ball over a lot. That's my big thing right now, is when you want to look at what Sean Elliott can do to help change the offensive line, is can he coach the silly stuff out of them in a week? We had a call earlier, and I believe it was Marv who called on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, and he asked how much can it be different? How much can this improve in just a week? How much can you change in a week? I don't think you can change much in terms of what you do schematically in a week because you had all of this install. The change can't be dramatic in what you do schematically, but maybe you can do things that are already in your playbook with greater frequency. Preston earlier today said the key letters in this game for the South Carolina offense, SDDs. And you say that slowly because that can be confused with another acronym with a completely different connotation. SDDs, screens, draws, delays. You've already heard me say it. It's going to happen. Oklahoma's going to get in your backfield. The time to throw isn't going to be a lot. You're not going to maybe sometimes have more than 3 seconds to throw the ball. The average time to throw for Arch Manning in their win against Oklahoma was 2.74 seconds because Texas ran a lot of screens, draws, delays. Things that get the ball out to the perimeter, things that might throw Oklahoma off timing, especially the screens. The most important one for that is screens. Losing Brian Rowe Jr. hurts because Brian Rowe Jr. is a really good athlete. But I don't see why you can't get Nick Harbor involved in the screen game. I don't see why you can't make Nick Harbor a really good perimeter blocker in this game to where you can maybe throw it to Amazio Bennett, who we just have not seen a lot of this year, or Evandrevis Jacobs, who is a really good athlete, and we've seen what he can do with the ball in his hands. Giving the ball to perimeter playmakers, or maybe have somebody like Rasul Faison line up a little wider, throw that little halfback swing screen, and have your perimeter playmakers just put a couple blocks on somebody and pick up 5 yards. A 5-yard screen on 1st and 10 is a win because there were way too many times in the LSU game where you either had a false start to make it 1st and 15 or Lenore Sellers ran for his life because nothing could develop downfield and the protection wasn't great, and he would make arguably the greatest 2-yard gain you've ever seen. One texter on the Firehouse Subs text line says, Elijah, can you tell me how many yards 16 ran to gain for what he did get at LSU? Thanks, Russ. He ran for a lot of yards, just not of them forward, Russ. A lot of them did not go forward. He ran backwards a lot because he had to. And again, some of those plays, some of the greatest 2-yard gains you'll ever see. You can maybe avoid that by a lot of quicker action stuff. Getting the ball out of Lenore's hands a little bit faster is going to help this offense at least get positive yards on 1st down. You can get positive yards on 1st down, you can give yourself a chance to win this game. Coming up next, our pal Lou Bezjak from the States. A big night of high school football with a couple of marquee matchups. Lou breaks that down for us next on the Early Game. So much talk about the offensive line this week. So much. And a lot of that revolves around the change made at offensive line coach. Well, if your roofing and waterproofing company isn't doing enough to protect your home, then maybe a change can be made to our friends at Midstate Roofing, because there's plenty of examples of people who have used Midstate Roofing for their home, their business, because Midstate Roofing has been doing this for 30 years. You're not in business for 30 years if you're not giving the results. Great service and incredible advice to the specific needs of your facility. So you can make a change by going to Midstate Roofing, because it doesn't matter if it's high-rise or hospitals, or the job is manufacturing to industrial. Midstate Roofing excels in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and you can even protect that roof with a maintenance contract. So call them today, 803-356-1919. You can always hit them up online at midstateroofing.com. And remember, if you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek. Mega Millions. I saw the red, so I was like, you know what? I think I've got like 10 seconds. Yeah, no worries. 'Cause I can see it pretty well. I can see it pretty well from here, and if I need to, I can always just pull up my timer. Like when we're on remote, I'll just pull up a timer on my phone. There's a way. Yeah, there's a way. Just don't know the way yet. Hell yeah. I like it. I like it. Ooh. I got the hiccups. Hey, Randy, we have a YouTube comment that says the mics are hot. I don't know if it's on in here or if it's in the soundboard. And
There's a good news in that respect. And we're looking for a high today of 75, sunny skies, sunny, and 80 tomorrow. 80 on Sunday as well, maybe an afternoon shower, but beautiful weather for the weekend, for the fair, for games, and all of that. 52 currently on 107.5 The Game.
A Football Friday would not be complete without talking to our friend Lou Bezjak from the State newspaper and breaking down some of the high school football matchups that we have going on. But before we get into the high school games, Lou, your thoughts on your Pittsburgh Steelers, not just taking a tough loss, but watching Aaron Rodgers versus Joe Flacco in the year of our Lord 2025, both throw for well over 200 yards in that game and both have solid games. Ooh.
In the first quarter, they didn't do that. So
yeah, you'd think, yeah, with a statue that Joe Flacco's, it's not like he's just like a little, longer in the tooth, and that you want to make him have to scramble a little bit. But Joe Flacco's always been this way. He's about as mobile now as he was when he came into the league in 2008, right? Like, it's not like he's changed that much. That one was a little wild. But the fact that we got to talk earlier this morning when we kicked off the show about a Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers quarterback duel, and the year is not 2013, was astounding to me. It was a really weird life thing, because that sentence could have been true when I was like a junior in high school. It's wild how that works. But in the high school ranks, Lou Bezjak, a couple of headliners for tonight. I think maybe the big headliner, at least to me, White Knoll at Irmo, maybe the team or the region that is the most top-heavy, really a three-team race. We saw Dutch Fork take care of business. White Knoll now basically playing for maybe a shot if Irmo takes care of business against Dutch Fork, that we can end up getting a three-way tie. That's something that they can play for, but it's not going to be easy. Irmo, number one in the state, has yet to take a loss, and they're going on the road to do it. What are you seeing in this matchup so far?
Yeah, it should be a good one, because if you're going to, the White Knoll could really make things interesting, and they got to be kicking themselves out of what happened last week. 3 turnovers that led to 21 Dutch Fork points, and leading going into the fourth quarter, and those 2 turnovers hurt them. So they need to do a little bit better job ball security, and hopefully they got that quarterback draw continuing to run. They ran that with success last week against Irmo.
And one of my favorite stories in the state is Swansea. They obviously had a breakout year last year, 7-0 to start the year. They're in a very intriguing region, too, that I find to be highly competitive. And they got Silver Bluff tonight. Now, Silver Bluff is 4-4, 1-1 in that region, but still a really solid football team. What do you see from Swansea, A, that has made them so good to get this 7-0 start? And what do they need to do to get themselves just 2 games away from a perfect regular season?
With Newberry in that final game. They got beat pretty bad by Silver Bluff last year, 56-26. So, but they're coming off a bye. That offensive line is the key. And Willie Fox has thrown it a little bit more, but it's pretty much Dante Caldwell and the stable of backs, and they're really strong, and they forced some turnovers, and I think it's gonna be a test, because Silver Bluff gave Newberry a test. I know Caldwell missed the first half in that game, but still, I think it should be a good ball game, and a big test for Swansea as they go for try for a perfect season. They're looking, if they win tonight, it'll be their best start since 1992.
I will go ahead and say right now, that is before my time. So there's a lot of history that is on the line right now in that game. So I'm definitely going to be locked in on that one. I want to turn the attention to Lugoff Elgin at Westwood too. I mean, Lugoff Elgin is one of those teams where maybe don't look like a state title contender, but fun. And I've brought them up a few times this year because I love watching Shamil Sadiq play wide receiver. There's so much big play ability there. Westwood has had a fantastic season. They're 5-2, 2-1 in that region. What do you like about this matchup, even just from an aesthetic standpoint, for people that like to watch teams that score and maybe see a really competitive football game?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of points both ways. And we know about Sadiq and E.J. Richardson. They were held in check. Ridgeview's defense, which we know is really good, shut them out last week. Westwood's coming off a win over Spring Valley. Extra day to prepare. I think they might get Angelo Rios, one of their top backs, back. So, and this has got region implications. Maybe for third place, maybe depending on what happens. I mean, Westwood still got Sumter. If they can win tonight and then maybe get second place in that region and guarantee a bye in the Division II playoffs, 5A Division II playoffs.
And now one game, these two teams aren't necessarily state title contenders, and they're in a really tough region, but they're both sitting 2-2 in that region, right? There are playoff implications to be had in this game, and locally, there are teams that usually when they play, we have pretty entertaining games. That's Brookland Cayce at Gilbert. What have you seen from Brookland Cayce under a first-year head coach for them and a brand-new coaching staff? And they've had a lot of growing they've had to do throughout the year, and Coach Oz over at Gilbert has done a really good job pulling out some wins for them too. I expect this one to be pretty close, but what are you expecting in Brookland Cayce at Gilbert tonight?
I think more we're another high-scoring game. Brookland Cayce did a good job last week coming back and winning against Aiken. We got Frick, sophomore quarterback, starting to come into his own. Bennett Plain had a huge game last week. Gilbert's been piecing things together after losing their quarterback early in the year. They had a couple running backs. They used Win Metz and Staley last week. So, yeah, I think you can see a lot of points, and it's big. We know what Gilbert and North Augusta at the top half of the region, but this could go towards third place or in a higher seed, definitely for the playoffs.
And then another one that I'm really interested in because of playoff implications. We've talked about that region that's got White Knoll, Irmo, Dutch Fork. It's really top heavy. And any of those three teams, I think, could win the state in that classification. But it means a lot for these schools to be able to get into the playoffs. River Bluff and Chapin, maybe not had the years they've expected. A whole lot of change for both of those rosters. But River Bluff's at Chapin tonight. What are you expecting in that one? And what are some of those implications going into playoff time?
Yeah, Chapin needs to win this one. They got White Knoll, I think, and next week. So you need to win. You need to get at least one win to make it to the playoffs. And River Bluff, I think, is in with their RPI and that, but they still want to look good. They didn't play well last week. They made a little bit of changes after at quarterback and running back. We'll see if those changes carry over to this week. So it's been an up and down year for Perry Parks in the first year, and Ryan Cole's had some stuff to deal with at Chapin. So we'll see. But both teams definitely want to win and could feel better about their postseason chances after tonight.
Good stuff there from Lou Bezjak. It's Lou at the State on Twitter. Again, if you do not follow him, you absolutely must, because that is a must for everything high school football related. And as somebody who does the High School Football Scoreboard Show brought to you by Paymore, let me tell you, it helps us out immensely. And, of course, Lou, in our high school football segment, always sponsored by Paymore. Need fast cash? Paymore is Columbia's go-to spot for fast cash on your tech. Visit them in Harbison and Sand Hills. Lou, thank you so much. Appreciate it as always, and I'll be talking to you here in like 12 hours or so.
Thanks, Elijah. Have a good one.
Good stuff there from Lou. Of course, you'll hear him tonight on my show with Justin Hall, the High School Football Scoreboard Show, brought to you by Paymore. Lou joins us if he can. Sometimes the game he's at runs a little late if they go to overtime or anything like that, if there's any late game theatrics that require a little more coverage. But Lou, for the most part, joins us on that show. Looking forward to talking to Lou then. Looking forward to doing the show with Justin tonight because of those games that we just mentioned. There's a lot to look for, a lot to break down. You can hear us tonight from 7 to 11. But coming up next, it's time to make some predictions. A big game for South Carolina. They got Oklahoma. Who do I think is going to win? And who are our winners for today's show? We'll tell you next. And we got winners for you, Coach. It's our winners segment. Before I get my winners for today's show, got to get my winner for tomorrow's game. Ian Rowland on the YouTube stream says, you were close with your LSU prediction, if I'm not mistaken. I had a 23-16 LSU, ended up being 20-10. We were on pace for 23-16. We got awfully close to 23-16. And it's not going to be much different for this game. For Gamecock Central, I put Oklahoma 27, South Carolina 13. Because to me, I have to prove it before I can predict it, right? I like to operate on information that I know and that I have. If they want to use this as fuel and as anything of a motivational tool, feel free to do it. But until I can see you protect your quarterback against one of the elite defenses in college football, I can't predict that you will, right? I know there's an offensive line coaching change. I think that could change some things, but how much? I don't know. Shane Beamer already told us during the week there's going to be negative plays. That's baked into that prediction right there. Unfortunately, I think you might have a harder time avoiding turnovers than you did. They did have the Lenore Sellers interception against LSU. I think you have a harder time avoiding those turnovers against Oklahoma. It's arguably the best in the SEC. I would even say they are the best defense in the SEC at creating havoc, negative plays, forcing you into bad decisions, duping you, right? They dupe many really good quarterbacks. They have no problem dropping linemen into coverage. They have no problem sending their corners on a blitz. Brent Venables is really creative with what he does defensively. And that's the one thing that Shane Beamer mentioned when I asked him what makes that defense so hard to prepare for. It's about how multiple they are. How they don't need to have a base defense. They can do anything on any given play. And for a quarterback, that's even harder because now you're having to diagnose that defense in real time. And with an offensive line that struggles, I just find it more likely than not that Oklahoma is able to score enough points to be able to win this game, force more turnovers. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball in South Carolina really well, but I think they will maybe make enough plays. I think South Carolina can get 13 points by getting a short field with a John Mateer mistake. One thing I can predict is that you will force at least one turnover on Oklahoma in this game. But right now, I have to see it before I can confidently pick it. So I have Oklahoma winning this game 27-13. My winners for today's show. The first one, a new acronym that Preston Thorne introduced me to today. SDDs. I say that slowly. I enunciate as much as I can. That way we don't mix that up with another acronym with a more negative connotation. But SDDs in this game are going to be vitally important. Screens, draws, delays. Because when you do have a struggling offensive line, when you have had to make some fundamental changes in the room, in the organization, with how they're being coached, sometimes you can help them out a little bit by not making them have to pass block for long. Texas found success with screens, draws, delays. They had their best running game. A lot of delays for Quintravion Wisner, who has struggled all year, but ran for 94 yards. Finally looked like the running back who was a 1,000-yard rusher against Oklahoma. Their offensive line played a lot better. Your offensive line can at least get helped out if the pass is coming out quickly, if they're quick passes. Texas was successful in the pass game. They didn't throw for 500 yards, but they threw for 166, which is enough to win the game, and they did so without Arch Manning needing more than 3 seconds to throw the ball. His average time to throw was 2.74. That's not a lot of time. That would rank very low for a lot of quarterbacks across the country, but it was enough to get it done because Texas relied heavily on that screen game. So SDDs as one of my winners for today's show. Also want to give a winner to old dudes because last night on Thursday Night Football, two dudes north of 40 who have been playing football in the National Football League, one since 2004, the other since 2008, I believe it was. Joe Flacco, 2008. Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco have been playing in the NFL for a long, long time. For a long time. They both took center stage last night on Thursday Night Football, and Joe Flacco helped engineer a game-winning drive for the Cincinnati Bengals. In a short time for Cincinnati, he's already made a world of difference. And Preston, I mentioned it. That might be one of the more impactful, might be the most impactful trade. If the Bengals find a way to get into the playoffs with Joe Burrow missing about 80-90% of the season, that trade for Joe Flacco could be a season saver Yes, I know the Micah Parsons trade was a big deal. Yes, I think the Packers are a team that can contend in the NFC, and that trade makes them a contender, right? Makes you feel better about them being a contender. But Joe Flacco could be a season saver for the Cincinnati Bengals. That is not a sentence I ever thought I would have to say, even after 2016. So, old dude quarterbacks, you're a winner. On today's show, and lastly, T. Higgins caught the ball inside the 10-yard line. But instead of going into the end zone with a little over a minute left and scoring a touchdown, he made sure Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers did not get the ball back with adequate time. He slid, didn't go into the end zone. They milked off enough clock to be able to kick a field goal with 7 seconds left and limited how much time the Steelers had to come back and win that game. I'm Elijah Campbell. You've been listening to The Early Game, third and long hour. Tyler Head and Jack Velcher in the Extra Point. That's next.